2 weeks ago, we started a war game, a real exercise. We took 4 of our staff. Rob and Natalie, the Red Force, are our bad guys. They're in Northern California. Ben and Lyle, the Blue Force, are our good guys. They're in a tactical operations center. My orders to Rob and Natalie were as follows. Recon a facility for potential attack in Monterey County. Have secret meetings, get others involved, use your network, and most importantly, be discreet. Avoid detection. And do not, under any circumstances, talk to Ben and Lyle. Now, Ben and Lyle were given nothing more than the following intelligence report. Rob and Natalie are currently targeting a critical facility in Monterey County. We don't know where, but we know it will be soon. So figure it out before it's too late. So please meet our good guys, Ben Conklin and Lyle Wright.
Thank you, Lauren. What you see up on the screen is a dashboard depicting our initial assessment of the situation. On the map are all the critical facilities that we were assigned to protect. In the top left, you see a list of the top 5 facilities we think Rob and Natalie were targeting, like the shipping facility in the west. Also, a chemical plant. Just below that list, you see our current indications and warnings. This is based on all the intelligence we are gathering. We were able to watch Rob and Natalie's every movement. We monitored their cell phone activity. We watched them on social media. We tracked their GPS. And we took all of that data in and we analyzed it. And based on the initial assessment, all of their activity, around 2/3 of it, was focused on the shipping facility in the west. We were taking this raw intelligence information, analyzing it in real time, and using it to identify their pattern of life. Their pattern of life is depicted on the map as a stay location in a little yellow box. A stay location is simply any location where Rob and Natalie spent any amount of time. What we would then do is take those locations and categorize them into 3 categories. The first category is depicted on the chart in the bottom of the dashboard. This is their normal activity. Things like Rob's work location, Natalie's work location, Rob's home, restaurants that they'd like to visit, places they would socialize, just the normal activity that all of us would have, and there's really nothing to worry about with it. The next category is the suspicious stay locations. These locations are places where they're having covert meetings with their secret network, or conducting surveillance on critical facilities, casing the joint. Then finally on the bottom is the category we're most concerned about. These are the unknown locations. These are places where we know they're spending their time, but we're just not sure why. We don't know what the connection is, what the pattern is, or if the activity is even significant at all. What we want to do is take those unknown locations and turn them into known locations. That's where the analyst comes in. So Lyle has access to all of that same intelligence information. Our HUMIT reports from the field, our signals intelligence reports, our hits off her cell phone, our open source intelligence reports coming from their social media feeds. But what Lyle needs to do as the analyst is make the connections in the data. He needs to understand how these bits of information are related, what the impact is, and how they're connected. He's doing this kind of work continuously. Lyle also has access to wide area motion imagery being served up to us by Pixia's Hyperstare server. He's able to add that imagery directly to his web browser to integrate it with the other intelligence information. Wide area motion imagery is a pretty incredible data set. It's collected from a persistent surveillance platform, continuously imaging the Earth with multiple cameras, covering a very wide area. Because this imagery is collected continuously, we can interact with it just like a video. We can play it forward and backward in time and understand patterns and activities that are happening on the ground. This data is pretty amazing, and it's a very wide volume of data. A 4-hour mission over this 5K area would result in 20 terabytes of rich imagery that we could interact with and explore. What we can see here is what Lyle did, is he actually managed to locate a suspicious vehicle on the video. This video is specifically mentioned in a HUMIT report, but they didn't know who was operating that vehicle. So it's a suspicious storage location and a suspicious vehicle. Lyle can watch this video now and figure out where else that vehicle went, either forward or backward in time. What he's now been able to do is see that actually, at a very specific point in time, Natalie's cell phone was used and located in the same location as the vehicle in the video. Now Lyle is able to actually go back to that human report and identify that unknown report as actually being connected to Natalie. So what Lyle's now managed to do is take some unknown information with an unknown connection and tie it back to Natalie and her pattern of movement. We now know about a suspicious location. He can also watch that video forward and backward in time and trace her activity throughout the day. He knows how she got from the storage facility to her home location. He's able to connect it with other intelligence information to strengthen his knowledge and to improve his understanding of the situation. He's taken that unknown location and made it a known location that fits into her pattern of life. Lyle is one of many analysts, but we also have many machines analyzing this data in real time as we're receiving it, taking some of the burden off of the analyst. That is the power of the GeoEvent extension. As this raw intelligence information is coming in and being processed in real time, we have our signals intelligence information, our open source intelligence information, our human reporting coming in from the field and connections being drawn between that data. We do that through our GeoEvent services. We have access to Natalie's GPS location. What we want to do is actually analyze that location in real time in order to figure out where she's stopping and staying. To do that, we create a new service. Let me show you how. To create a new service, we use our service designer. The service designer is like our model builder for real-time services. Here we can create analytic models that run against data in real time. To begin with, we start with our raw GPS feed, the raw input of data. We can immediately begin pushing that information out to a new stream. This stream would allow anybody to visualize her location on the map. But what we want to do is actually analyze the data as we're receiving it. To do that, we can apply many different tools to this data, just like our geoprocessing tools, except for against the data in real time. We have the ability to create buffers, ellipses, tag the data based on its location and its relationship to other things. And finally, we can detect when she stops moving. So anytime she stops moving for 300 seconds or moves less than 120 feet, that's going to create one of these new stay locations. So we can wire that into the incoming data and then push it out as a new feed of locations for us to analyze and use to track her movements. To do that, we simply publish this service, and what you'll see is immediately we start receiving data and are analyzing it in real time. Let's see what that looks like on a map. What you see is the blue dot depicting her current GPS location. She's moving around on this wharf and conducting normal activity. Whenever Natalie stops moving at any time that meets that threshold, the 300 seconds or the 120 feet, we're going to create a new stay location, those yellow rectangles that we saw before. Looking at this wharf and looking at her stay location, it could mean anything. She could be having a picnic lunch, doing a little bit of sightseeing, just innocent activity. But one thing I can't help but notice is there's a critical facility just to the north. She could actually be using that stay location to conduct surveillance on that critical facility. To confirm that, we actually ran a viewshed from the critical facility. So we see from the viewshed that she definitely could be conducting surveillance on the wharf of that critical facility. But what we want to do is not figure this out after the fact. We don't want to know after she conducted surveillance. We want to know when it's happening. In order to do that, we'll just create a slightly more sophisticated model. This model takes all of our different intelligence feeds and analyzes it to determine if she has a stay location inside of a viewshed or outside the viewshed. If it's inside of it, we tag her as conducting surveillance, and we actually tie her to the facility that she's conducting surveillance on, and then push that out for our alerting. When we started this exercise, we had no idea how we were going to stop Rob and Natalie. The first thing we had to do was come up with a way to analyze the intelligence data to determine their pattern of life. We did that using the GeoEvent extension. The second thing that we had to do was bring together the disparate data and look for patterns that weren't obvious. We did that by integrating wide area motion imagery. And then finally, we had to take all that information that was complex and somewhat hard to understand and bring it together into a dashboard where we could visualize the information and make decisions based on it. When we ran this exercise in real time, we applied all of these analytics. And what we detected was a pattern that emerged. And that was a lot of activity focused on the Coast Guard wharf. That activity was specifically due to these surveillance actions, all the movement that was happening around the wharf where they were surveilling this Coast Guard facility. So based on that suspicious activity, the fact that Rob and Natalie were trying to be sneaky and conduct surveillance on the wharf, we think they are targeting the Coast Guard facility. Thank you.